Hi everyone, I hope all of you are doing well. In this episode, we are going to focus on completing the registration form so our users could actually click on create account and register to our system. And later on, we are also going to apply some validations to make this register form a little bit more secure. So let's get started. Alright, so until now we were not able to configure the behind the scenes actions of what happens when we create the create account button. Now to do this, we have to go to our routes.py file and then we have to go for the route where the register form is located and then write some pure Python code over there. So to do this, I will open my Python and in here I can basically handle what happens when the user submits on the create account button. So the best practice in that case will be to start by this conditional. So it will be if form dot validate on submit. Now there are two main reasons that you want to execute this conditional before you actually go ahead and submit changes into your database. Okay, so the first reason you want to execute that is you want to verify that those commands that I'm going to write in here are only going to be executed when the user is submitted on that button. So this on submit part is actually checking if the user has clicked on the submit button of that form. And the second reason you want to execute this, it is mainly because we are going to write some validations that are going to check for certain requirements before this form becomes valid. So I'm talking about conditionals like you see in real register pages in real websites. For example, your password should be matched or your username should not contain more than 20 characters and stuff like that. So this is why it is very important to execute this conditional in here. And once this returns true, then I can basically go ahead with user to create like that, and I will make that to be equal to an instance of user. And it is a great idea to import it from the market.models in here. So I will basically add a comma and I will import the user. And once I have done that, then I can basically give the arguments that are required to create a user. So I will start by saying username equals to, and in here I actually want to provide the value that is received from the username field within the form. So I can do this by saying from.username data. So this is the way that we are going to pass our fields from the form, and I will continue on doing this with the email address as well. So I will say email underscore address equals to form.email underscore address data, and I will perform the exact same action with password. So it will be password equals to form.password1, and in here I'm passing password1 by purpose, and you will see in a few minutes why I am doing this. So I will say .data in here again. Okay, so this should be enough to create the instance of our user, and once I have done that, then I can basically execute the same commands to submit the changes towards our database. So it will be db.session.add, and I will pass in the argument of user to create. And I know that we did not import the db variable in here, so it is a great idea to import it. Now I will go down here and I will say from market import db. Now the reason I can import it directly from the market package, it is mainly because it is located in the dunder init file, so I don't have to go inside dot something. Okay, so it is quite great to import it that way. And now I will go back to our route and I will say db.session.commit, and this will save our changes to the database. And once we have done that, then we probably want to redirect our users to a different page. Now it quite makes sense because now they are registered to the website, and now we can show the user the items that are available on the market. So I will use the built-in redirect function that the Flask package offers us. So I can go up here and I can go for that line and I can basically import the built-in function which is called redirect. And I will also import the built-in URL_for function that we used previously in our templates. So we will go down here and we will see how we can redirect our users to a different page after the user is clicking on the create account button. So I will go right after our commit command and I will say return redirect, and in here the redirect function expects for an hard-coded URL. Now if you remember previously in that tutorial we said that it is not a great idea to give arguments as a hard-coded URLs. So besides doing this, I will say URL_for and I will give the URL_for the name of the route itself. So it will be market_page. And this should send our users right to here, so it is quite great. Okay, so we can just test this out by going back to our Chrome browser and refresh that out. And then now let's try to create a random account and see what happens. Okay, so we will say here JSC2 for example, and we will fill in some dummy email and I will just type in very basic password and I will try to create account. Now you can see that we receive method not allowed, and actually there's a reason that I wanted us to see this message because it is quite important to apply the step that I'm going to talk about. Now when it comes to web requests, we said that we have several request methods and we should allow our routes to handle post requests, and the way that we can do that is by customizing the decorator of our route function. So I will go right here and I will say methods equals to, and I will open here a list and I will insert two elements and I will give get and I will also give post. Okay, so it is important to apply this step so our route could handle post requests. And before we continue, sorry about that, but I think that we mismatched this line in here and this should be password_hash equals to form.password1.data. So make sure to fix that before you continue. Alright, so once we have enabled the post request in that route, then there is one more important step that we have to configure before we test this out. Now when you send information from client to a server, then it gives a huge opportunity to the hackers out there to steal that information. And one of the known malicious attacks is called cross-site request forgery, and this attack is basically just a way to steal or perform actions against your database that are unwanted. And to protect our website from such an attack, Flask delivers us a very easy feature to apply a protection. So the way that we are going to do that is as easy as going to our register.html and right under our form method post HTML tags we are basically going to say, so we will open our curly brackets to refer to Jinja syntax and we will easily say form.hidden_tag. And what this is going to do, it is going to protect us from the attack that I was talking about by generating some token that is basically again just going to protect us from such an attack. And okay, now we can save that file, and once we have completed this, let's actually test if our website is up and running. And we will now go to our website and we will navigate to our register page and we will try to create a new account. So it will be JSC2 for example, and we will try to provide in some random email here and we will try to fill in some password. And now if I'm going to press on create account and going to be redirected to the market page, then it means that the user has been created. And if I click on that, then you can see that this is the exact result. So that means that we have created this account, and we can test this by easily going to Python shell and type in user.query.all, and this will be responsible to give all the users, and we probably will see the JSC2 account that we have just created. Okay, so although now we have the ability to register users, we did not set up any special policy regarding to how we want to register our users. And what I mean by that is, you saw previously how I created a user with a password that only contains 6 characters. And we did not even write a Python code anywhere in our project that verifies that the password and the confirmed password are matched. So this is very wrong when it comes to web applications and not secure, and actually this is a huge bug. Now to solve this, we can basically write in some validations to solve that problem, and then those validations are going to be executed before the form is submitted. And the way that we can do that is by the Flask Validations package that is offered by the Flask itself. So let's go ahead and try to apply some validations to see that the data that we are receiving is actually valid. So I will make the font a little bit bigger here, and I will say down here from wt forms.validators, and in here there are a lot of built-in classes that are going to check for certain validations. So let's say that we want to validate that the username length is maximum 30 characters and minimum 2 characters. So we can do that by importing a built-in class that is called length. And now, once I have done that, then we can go inside our username field and we can call the validators argument, and basically we can say that we want to validate the length. So it will be length, and then I will open the parentheses here, and I will say minimum equals to 2, and I will also say max equals to 30. So what this line of code does, it basically verifies before the submission that the username value includes between 2 to 30 characters, and we can write more validations like that in each of the fields that we want. So let's say that we want to apply the exact same step for our passwords. So it will be as easy as going to our password1 field and say validators again, and this will be equal again to a class of length, I mean an instance of the length class, and we can now provide here minimum equals to 6. And I actually don't want to set a maximum value for our passwords, because if our users want to have a huge password, then it is quite okay. Now we could copy the exact validation to our password 2 as well, but we probably want to avoid that, because if this validation is going to be executed on password 1, then we probably don't need to execute it again on our password 2, because we want those fields to be matched. And as I said that, how we are going to verify that password 2 matches password 1? Well, the way that we can do that is by importing one more class from the wtforms.validators, and we can basically check if password 2 is equal to password 1 when the form is submitted. So it will be as easy as importing the equal to class here and go to our password 2 and say validators equals to equal to, and then in here we will pass in as a string our field that we want to verify that it's equal to. So it is password 1, and it is quite important to write this down, because that is what is going to verify that the password and the confirmed password are matched. Now if you remember, the password 2 is the confirmed password, and you can memorize this because we have this label in here. So this is actually a very important validation. Okay, so some more validations that we want to provide in here is probably to check if the @ is located in the email address. And the way that we can do that is also as easy as importing the email class from the validators, and we can just say validators equals to email, and this is easily going to check if the given value in the email address is actually an email address. And one more thing that we can do with the validators, we can basically give one more validation to each field, and it will be as easy as converting the validator's value to a list in each of our fields. So let's go ahead and do that. We will just add square brackets in the end and in the beginning of each our values. So I will do that in here, and I will also do that in here. And I will do that in the password too as well. Now there is one more reason that I have done this, because we also want to verify that each of our fields are filled in with some information. So I can basically import the data required class here, and I can add one more validation by going here and press comma, and now we can type data required and close this up like this. And we probably want to copy and paste the same validation for each of our fields because we want them to be filled up. So I will copy this out and I will paste this in here and as well as in here and also in here. And I will just go back to here, and I think we are pretty much done with all the validations that we want to apply. Okay, so now that we have completed this, let's see in our routes.py how we are going to handle those validations. So we will open our routes.py and we will zoom in here a little bit, and down here we want to check if some of the validations are failing or not. So for example, let's say that we had a user that provided a username with only a one character. Well, in that case, it is quite obvious that our Python conditional is not going to go inside our form.validate on submit, because one of the validations are not meeting our requirements to create a user successfully. So to check for errors that are arriving from the validations, it is as easy as checking the form.errors. So if one of our validations are going to fail, then it is going to be stored inside this field. And since it is a built-in dictionary field, then we probably want to check if it is empty or not before we actually put in some more Python code. So I will say if form.errors is not equal to empty dictionary. And what I say by writing this conditional is just as easy as saying if there are no errors that are arrived from the validations. So I will comment this out. If there are not errors from the validations, like that. Okay, so it is quite important to write in this conditional, and once I have done that, then we can basically iterate over the errors that are arriving from the validations. So since there could be more than one validation error, then we have to iterate over the form.errors. So it will be for err message, so just a shortened way to say error message, in form.errors. And as I said that this is a dictionary, then we can basically access the values of that. So I will say dot values and I will close this up and we will enter this conditional, and temporarily we will basically print the message in the server side. So I will just print the message and then we should see the error message in the Python shell where we see certain logs about our web server that is running. So I will basically print the error msg up, and it is a better idea to actually write a formatted message. So it will be something like there was an error with creating a user, and then we will call the variable that we are iterating on. Okay, so I think that we are all set up to test if that works properly. So now I will open our website on the left pane and I will locate our terminal in the right pane. Okay, so we can be aware if there are going to be any errors when we create a user. So now I will try to register and I will verify that our website is running. So I will execute python run.py. And now we can see that we receive an unexpected exception here. So it says that, let's actually see it like that. It says that we must install the email_validator for email validation support. So I will say down here pip install email_validator. So just make sure to run that, and I believe this should solve the problem. So once we go ahead and install this up, and now we can run our web server again. And now I see that everything works properly. Now we can refresh this and we are right in the register page. So now I want to create a user with only one character. So it will be just J, and I will put a valid email address. So just something like that, and I will not mismatch the password by purpose. So I will create an account, and then you can see that it did not redirect us to the items page, unlike the previous result. And in our web browser, we can see that we received there was an error creating a user, and we can also see that we have here field must be between 2 and 30 characters long. So what that means, it means that our validations are working properly. Now, if we want to test multiple validations that are going to fail, then we can basically try to mismatch the email in here by writing some numbers, and we can unmatch the password and confirm password, and we can try to click on create account, and now we can see multiple errors. So we have there was an error creating a user with this message, and we also have it for the message here as well. And I think we saw this twice because I was looking up here, so sorry. And there should be 3 errors. So the third is that field must be equal to password 1, and we also see that invalid email address. And I think that this explains that our validations are working perfect because we saw the results as expected. Now, I know that this is not a great idea to display those kind of messages on the server side, and in the near future we are going to turn those messages and we are going to flash them up right in our website. So it is going to be very cool to do that, because this way our users could also be aware of the different errors that are arriving from the validations. And actually displaying a message on the client side when there are certain errors could be sometimes a complex topic. So this is something that we are going to handle in a new brand episode, where we are going to focus on how we can display those errors nicer in an HTML format. Okay, so I think this will close out our episode, and I hope that you understood everything about the validations that we have applied for our register form. And if there are any questions or something else that you want to comment out, please consider doing it. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button and consider subscribing to my channel as well. And I will see you in my next episode.